Okay, looks like we are live, receiving your content, and looks like we are a go. Fantastic. Okay, so what's up, everybody? I'm feeling a little bit low energy tonight, but we had this pretty explosive Alex Jones, Joe Rogan podcast, and Eddie Bravo showed up, and a whole lot of talking was done about the flat earth theory, which some might argue isn't even a theory. It's just the obvious default starting point of things. So a lot of stuff was said, and Alex Jones seemed he seemed to think that flat earth is just a stupid joke. And so he seemed to just be sarcastic a lot of the time. But let's go ahead and see what Alex Jones's first argument was for the globe.
Okay.
Anyways, Eddie,
No,
I'm
what I'm
not
saying is-
you're bad questioning. I get it.
No, you do get it. You know why? Because
How was this a joke for
no,
you?
of course, Alex. You are someone that I could talk to about the flat Earth conspiracy, and you believe in so many crazy things about the government. You don't believe in flat Earth, but you can kind of understand where I'm coming from, right?
Yeah,
right?
my issue
kinda,
is GPS
right?
is real. I know airline pilots that fly from California.
All right, now just a second. Let me do a little something here. Let me pop the chat out. And, yep. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put this fucker right there. We're going to put this fucker right there. We're going to move this fucker like this. We're going to really put it, we're going to put it like that. That's nice. I think that's fair. And, okay, so Alex Jones, he says the Earth is a globe because GPS and flights. Let's hear that again.
And where I'm coming from, right?
Yeah, my
right?
issue is GPS
right?
is real. I know airline pilots that fly from California to places like Australia, and they've got another wing over to Hong Kong, and then they go to Moscow.
You can fly anywhere in the world if it was flat. If it's flat, you could go from east to west just like you could on a ball. You just don't understand what like a pizza is. You could just go anywhere. Like if you're on a flat
Here's
Earth,
what I'm telling
if you're on
you.
a flat
Here's
Earth,
what I'm
you
telling
could
you.
travel anywhere. Give me two cities.
Eddie,
you point at two cities and you
because
just
we've
go
been
there.
lied to so much, I get what you
It has
question.
nothing to do with the ball.
I'm not that rich.
No, listen.
But I do
listen.
have the money.
I'm
I
not
will
trying to
pay
convince
for a
you.
research
I'm not
ship.
trying to convince you, Alex.
Okay,
My point is,
so it becomes a circus very quick, right? So GPS, Global Positioning System, or as I like to call it, Global Presupposition System. Just because you have a mathematical model, okay, a mathematical model in a computer on a microchip that conforms a potentially flat Earth into a globe, doesn't mean we live on a freaking globe. And that's the problem with models. The problem with models is that you can make anything work. You can even make a model that says we live on a spinning space globe, a spinning space ball. You can make a model for that. You can absolutely make a model for that and work. You can make a model for banana-shaped Earth, triangular prism Earth. All you got to do is tweak it. Tweak the model. Tweak the model. And the ultimate tweak for the globe would probably be gravity. I'd say gravity is the ultimate tweak. It's how it's how when you get to the bottom of the globe, you can stick to the bottom of it. You kind of need that. You kind of need gravity. Pretty important. But there's also axial tilt. So it's not just a spinning globe. It's also tilted. It's got axial tilt. So that helps explain some of the observations we see. You got a little bit of, You got a little bit of equatorial bulge. You got to make it a little fatter around the hips. And it's even a little fatter below the equator. So it's, in Neil deGrasse Tyson's words, it's actually pear-shaped. So the axial tilt, you get a little equatorial bulge. You get a little bit of magnetic poles versus geographic poles, which the magnetic pole's always moving its location. So you're always tweaking it to make sure that it matches our observations. And of course, the biggest tweak of all is gravity. It's the glue that keeps the whole thing together. And boy, oh boy, is that an important thing, because without gravity, Australians will fall the fuck off the globe. They will fall off the fucking globe. All right. So GPS, you can make a model that matches anything you wanted to. So Alex Jones says, GPS works, therefore we live in a ball. What he's really saying is a mathematical model construct on a microchip works, therefore we live in the mathematical construct in the microchip. Models don't mean shit, especially when we've been presupposing we live on a sphere long before we had proof for it. For 2,500 years, going back to Pythagoras, we've been thinking we live on a spinning space ball. Shout out to Silver Umbrella, $4.49 super chat. Thank you very much. Perrier, sparkling water, not alcohol. I heard that when you become an atheist glober, you also become a diehard alcoholic, which makes actually perfect sense. So GPS, Alex, it just doesn't prove anything. It really doesn't, especially when the GPSs are probably just a consequence of this 2,500 year presupposition. Mind of God in the chat says, preserve brain cells, high IQ-ish. Exactly. What's up, Flat World Logic? Exactly. And literally, I mean, there's a reason they say alcohol kills brain cells, and so, I guess you can just chalk that up to the more like the high IQ stuff. So let's keep going. So Alex Jones says, GPS proves we live on a spinning space ball. No, it's just a mathematical, probably presuppositional model on a computer chip. Don't mean literally not proof.
GPS is real. I know airline pilots that fly from California to places like Australia, and they've got another wing over to Hong Kong, and then they go to Moscow.
You can fly anywhere in the world if it was flat. If it's flat, you could go from east to west just like you could on a ball. You just don't understand what like a pizza is. You could just go anywhere. Like if you're on a flat Earth, if you're on a flat Earth, you could travel anywhere. Give me two cities.
Eddie,
you point at two cities and you just go there.
So Alex Jones again. So Alex Jones is making really, really elementary arguments. I mean, this is the kind of shit you talk about when you just heard about flat Earth and for the first time, and you're trying to come up with some ad hoc rebuttals off the top of your head. Eddie Bravo is exactly correct. You can fly on a plane on a flat Earth just as easily as you can fly on a globe. And it's actually funny because let me find it here. So here's a video from Wolfie6020. He's I wouldn't say popular, but he's certainly a die-hard globe defender. And he's committed to debunking flat Earth. And this is a video titled, Do Aircraft Change Altitude to Follow the Curvature of the Earth? So this is obviously a big thing. Some flat earthers used to say, and they probably still do, and it's a very interesting question. As a plane is flying around the globe, does the plane have to tilt its nose down to get around the globe? So as it's going, does it have to keep doing this and this and this? Right. And so people never feel that. And according to this video here from Wolfie, The reason is that the rate of change is so gradual that you just don't feel it. So let's listen.
I'm just doing a short video to answer a question I get asked.
Okay, let me take this off 2 times speed.
I'm just doing a short video to answer a question I get asked all the time. And the question is, does a pilot have to pitch the nose of his aircraft down as he's traveling across the Earth? And that is to compensate for the curvature of the Earth. Well, the answer is that the aircraft does in fact pitch down as it travels across the Earth, and no, the pilot doesn't really notice it because the rate of pitch down is so slow that it's basically imperceptible. And
so the argument is that it is imperceptible. And again, the title of this video, you guys can check it out for yourself if you want. Do aircraft change altitude to follow the curvature of the Earth? It's a video from Wolfie6020 YouTube channel. So the argument is basically, no, the rate of dip around the globe is so gradual, and the changes that the pilot makes are so micro adjustments as they're flying that they don't really notice it, and the passengers aren't going to really notice it because it's just so gradual. And that explanation probably checks out within the thank you for the super chat there, Silver Umbrella. Really strange times. We need to red pill Alex. Well, we'll see. Let's see if he becomes a skeptic. That that explanation, that probably checks out within the presupposition of the globe model. That probably checks out. Okay, it's gradual. But what I like about that, and I think is funny, is that if we take a flat Earth map, let's pull out the flat map. If we take a flat Earth map, people might ask, well, because that's what Eddie Bravo mentioned. He said, well, yeah, you can just go east or west around the circle. You can go east or west. And people might be like, well, if we're flying east and west, and that means instead of turning down to go around the globe, pilots are going to be turning left or right, east or west as they go around the disk. And I never feel the plane, turning or banking to the left or turning right. I never feel that. Well, if it's so gradual on a globe, you don't feel the nose tipping down, then it can just as easily apply to the flat model. If it's so big, then the banking left and right is so gradual. The turning left to right, obviously it's not the official pilot terminology, but you know what I'm trying to say here. The east or westward direction to account as you're going over the flat disk, that's probably just as gradual too. And you won't feel it. So that's almost like a null argument. It doesn't really help either side. But, the globe should always have all the evidence on its side because they tell us it's the absolute truth, and anybody who questions it needs to be basically locked up in prison. Locked up in prison and silenced off the internet. So, as well, later on, Alex Jones says the following. This is what he says.
Why are we debating whether the Earth is flat? Dude, they have human-animal hybrid.
Listen, Tim Dick.
Okay, he's just
You saw this, right?
For the penalty stuff.
okay. You heard.
Heard the-
I believe he doesn't get into it.
Do you
Senate voted to violate keep
late term
the governor. Anyway,
Hey, man,
to designate somebody?
Yeah.
Senate voted.
explain to you.
Our doses to me.
Right.
Don't get me started.
Don't you have to go?
We're gonna send someone else, Alex,
Yeah,
but we're gonna
not
do
anymore.
this.
Hey.
'Cause you know what? We're
Hey,
gonna
I
do
gotta
this.
pick it a
I don't have to be the one that goes.
I don't
have to be the one that
I gotta
goes.
pick it a minute. Let me tell you something right now. Let me tell you something right now. I came here and I proved they're keeping babies alive and taking their organs.
How did you prove that?
They're admitting it.
Jamie pulled some shit up on Google.
They admit it now.
That's
they're,
you
they're
too.
normalizing it.
But it's not going to be me. I'm going to
Astronauts, the guy that didn't
Yeah.
get man.
designate somebody.
Not
Someone
astronauts.
else.
I'm
Things
gonna
all-
film the drop off.
Anyways, I can't find the exact time, but basically Alex Jones mocks the notion. He appealed to that meme on the internet saying, oh yeah, you know, if the earth was flat, the cats would have knocked everything off the flat earth by now. And, well, again, that's the caricature of flat earth that's put out by the media and by the cultural influencers of society, the establishment. They put out this notion that if the earth is flat, there must be an edge. And if there's an edge, we must be able to fall off it. And so you get that stereotypical depiction of a ship just half careening over the edge of the flat earth, about to fall into an infinite abyss. And it's like a childish mockery of a very real concept that the human mind, at least any thinking human mind, has to deal with when they grow up and they start to ponder their world, and that is there an edge? Now, in the spinning spaceball heliocentric model, you know, we have Earth, and then we have space, and you know, people like to mock, you know, the notion that there's a flat earth with an edge, but I can just as easily ask that question to all the Glober heliocentrists out there. And that question is, well, where's the edge of the universe? Couldn't I ask that question? And then you might say, oh, it's infinitely expanding, or well, okay, well, that's still just as absurd. Because if I told you that on the flat earth model or the flat earth map, it just extends infinitely, you would laugh at that, wouldn't you? But the notion that our universe extends infinitely, well, you just accept that. So the concept of edges to our reality is an unavoidable fact of existence. You unavoidably want to ask yourself the question, is there an edge or boundary to my existence? And so although it is a funny little thing to do, to mock flat earthers and mock where's the edge, we can just as easily mock the heliocentric model. And the thing is that people have, the heliocentric model has pushed space so far away, has pushed the stars and the moon and the sun so far away out of our consciousness that the very notion of the edge or boundary of our reality, even in the heliocentric model out there in space, it's a very foreign, alien topic in our minds that we don't think about. So when someone says the earth is flat, that suddenly brings the edge, which is usually reserved for a infinitely expanding space, or at least really, really fucking far away, it brings the concept of an edge to our reality really close. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. To me, the edge of our reality is like coming face to face with the programmer if you're coming from the simulation theory, or the creator if you're coming from a theological perspective. Whatever the hell you want to call it, God, whatever you want to call it, to me, the edge is like the fingerprints of God. It's almost like coming face to face with God, because you come face to face with a limitation to your reality. You come face to face with the realization that you can't get out any further, and that you have to ask yourself, well, what's out there? And why the fuck can't I get through that? I would argue it's because it's almost like a contradiction in terms, essentially. And you know, maybe I'm not going to go down that road. I'm not going to go down that road. So the point is, the notion of an edge to our reality has been pushed so far away that people don't even take it seriously. Shout out Super Chat. The Raw Caviar says 500 miles an hour is 2,700 feet curve per minute drop. 30 minutes, 81,000 feet drop. Plane takes 30 minutes to land, dropping from 35,000 feet, and you feel it dropping straight away. Conclusion, you would feel 81,000 feet curve in half an hour. That's a nice little riddle there. Let me read that again. 500 mile an hour is 2,700 feet of curve per minute drop. So 500 miles an hour is obviously how fast planes generally fly. So that is 2,700 feet of curvature drop per minute. Wow. So in 30 minutes, you have 81,000 feet of dropping. The plane takes 30 minutes to land, dropping from 35,000 feet, and you feel it dropping straight away. Conclusion, you would feel 81,000 feet of curve in half an hour. Well, by dropping, do you mean feeling yourself descending? Or do you mean like pitching down? You know, pitching down. I'm going to assume you mean pitching down. Anyways, that's a really interesting one to rummage over. And that's it. So let me. So yeah. So you know they try and they try and they try and they try and they try. But there's nothing really inherently taboo about the notion of an edge to your reality. It's just been made taboo because they pushed it so far away, and that's it. Chris Meister says he feels sorry for me. I mean, thank you. I'll go ahead, empathize for me. Go for it. Okay, so that is the end of the first clip. So let's pull up the next one. Pull this one out.
Your points, because here's the deal.
Press pause on that for a moment. Okay. So at 9 minutes and 30 seconds, he starts to discuss a few different variety of topics. So let's listen.
You know,
But do you know how horrific that would be if you were a guy like Neil Armstrong and you knew that the footage was bullshit, but you actually had gone to the moon, and you're like, fuck. And this whole thing was like people were starting to go, why does it look like they're on wires? Why does it look like they're on trampolines? Like,
Yeah, by the way, they all got radiated because it's true. Like he says, going through that's like 1,000 chest X-rays or something. You know, even flying at noon, you know, is like 10 chest X-rays, right?
Yeah,
you know what airline
flying is
pilots all
terrible
fry.
for you.
Notice all the.
I thought it was only one.
Notice how it's more. Notice how the international flights are all now at night
Why is that?
because there's freaking no radiation, dude.
because you go to sleep, it's a red eye.
No.
Solar radiation.
From 35,000 feet to sea level, on average, is 10 feet of water and about 6 inches of stone. There's dirt. Why is the sun so big on the
Wait a minute. Explain that again. What are you saying?
Imagine the atmosphere as a lens.
Okay.
So why do you think the sun or the moon looks so much bigger on the horizon?
Why is that?
You ever thought about that?
Refraction.
I always thought it was just
It's not
in
refraction?
comparison to
Yeah,
the
no,
Earth because it's on the
bigger than that.
closer
Why
to the
is it
surface.
red?
Why is it red? The atmosphere.
You're looking through
going
all
through
that
more
dust.
air.
And yeah, you're
of
looking
dust.
through 1,000 miles instead of 20 miles.
Okay.
So the moon gets smaller and turns totally white as it goes up.
Right.
So this is like astronomy. I
Right.
I did take
No, I see what
astronomy
you're
in college.
saying because you're looking at it on the plane and
Yeah. So
all
what was
this
the point of me
stuff
bringing that
between
up? I forget.
We were talking
Joe's
about
good at that.
Flights,
yeah.
radiation.
We were
Oh
talking
yeah.
about
So
radiation.
here's the deal. Whatever it is, you get a bunch of chest X-rays
Right.
when you fly during the day
Because of the sun, solar radiation.
because
right?
you're above. Like everybody knows, you're in the mountains. You get a worse sunburn. Why is that?
less oxygen.
Less dropping the UV.
Yeah.
So when you're at 35,000 feet, that's above the Himalayas.
Yeah.
You are up there, and there's on average at 35,000 feet. This is a NASA statistic, so probably not true. 10 feet of water and 6 inches of stone. Because if you condensed 35,000 feet of dust, the filter.
Oh wow.
Why when you hit a filter on your iPhone does it turn another color? Put a filter over it.
Right.
So think about the atmosphere. When you're looking straight up, the moon's fucking white. Looking at this angle, it's yellow.
Right.
It's big and orange on the damn.
And let's be clear here. Everything Alex Jones is saying right now, as true as it might be, does not prove the globe and could just as easily work on a flat Earth. Let's just be clear about that.
Damn, that's big. It's not just where it's coming up. That's part of it.
Right.
It's that it's bubbled. It's deformed. It's like looking through a pair of glasses on the edge.
So you're looking through all that atmosphere. You're looking through pollution. You look.
All of this is literally, it works just as easily on a flat Earth. The notion that if, as the sun and the moon are closer towards the horizon, there's more obstruction due to the atmosphere in between you and what you're looking at. But then up here, it's not that way. Like that, all of that shit works on both models. But I do find it interesting because he does talk about how when the moon is closer to the horizon, it's like huge. And then as it gets further up, generally, it actually appears to reduce in size because there's less atmospheric magnification taking place. And that's interesting because a lot of times people will be like, yeah, you flat earthers, you guys say that, if the sun is actually appearing to descend, setting when the sun sets, just because of perspective, then why doesn't the sun appear to get smaller as it gets further away? And they'll say that, if the sun is much closer, like flat earthers say, and the reason it appears to descend in the sky during a sunset is because it's getting further away. Like when you're looking down a long hallway and the ceiling above your head, the further away you are, the lower it appears in your vision. Excuse me. This sparkling water shit gives you some burps. Chris Meister asks, Red Pill, if you happen to go south to the Antarctica with Alex Jones, would you go on that trip? Wow, isn't that a good question? I've thought about, in general, like what can we actually go to Antarctica? Like what would happen if we actually went to Antarctica? Like, wouldn't that be crazy? And I'm like, well, if they really are not letting people go there because you know what? If they're really not letting people go there because there's something to hide, then that's probably just like, going to Area 51 or something, and a bunch of armed guards show up and, point guns in your face. So basically, it's pretty safe to say that if the Antarctic Treaty is what they say it is, you're not allowed to go down there. And the question is, what will the government do if you go to Antarctica and you start, you accidentally knock over a penguin, or you freaking step on a... Because the Antarctic Treaty is because they're protecting the environment and science. I mean, what are you protecting in a frozen tundra wasteland? So, who knows what the hell, they would do. And if you're not allowed to go there because the Antarctic Treaty says, you got to protect science and the environment, then I don't think they're going to want you going down there unauthorized. So, okay. Let's not get too off track here. So, why doesn't the sun appear to reduce in angular size the closer you get to the horizon?
There's the 8s or the 1s.
Well,
or
we're going to discuss that now. Why doesn't the sun appear to decrease in angular size as it gets closer to the horizon? Let's talk about this here, shall we? Let me move this over like that and bring that down like that. And then let's reduce some angular size here, shall we? I'm going to put myself over here for now. And we're going to do that. Okay. There you go. So, you know, they'll say, oh, well, the Globers will be like, oh, I went out with a camera. I put a solar filter on the camera, and so that gets rid of all the excess glare, and you can see the sun for what it is in the sky. And as we track the sun, as it sets and gets closer to the horizon, the sun isn't getting smaller. What's going on? The sun isn't getting smaller. If it's actually appearing to descend because of perspective, as flat earthers say, then why doesn't it also appear to shrink? That must be proof we live on a freaking globe, right? Nope. So if you're actually smart and you use high IQ skepticism and you look into it, you see that there's a lot of other really interesting explanations for how these things work. So here's an interesting video, which you guys will probably find. But let's go ahead and play a short clip from it.
Above us is now further away, so it's smaller. The one below us is closer, so it's a little bit bigger. Theta is met now at angle 8, let's say, along the bottom. The information would be hundreds in the hundreds, possibly, or horizon line. Lower horizon. But we'll see this here in a diagram. So when observing this scenario, theta is met for my lowered observer height and sets my lower horizon limit, or my lower horizon distance, which is now closer in at that angle 8. So for the information above my eye line, the descent rate is now steeper, just like with the bottles, but I have less of an angular compression rate, right? The angles are more open. So these angle pairs, the 8s or the 1s or the 11s, etc., must always remain in proportion, but diminish together according to the ceiling or floor distance. If one angle decreases, the other increases, but they are both diminishing with distance. Theta is never met along the top, again, because the horizon distance is set by the bottom. It occupies 50% of my vision, so wherever the information above my eye line is at that point, when these two halves collapse, is what I see above my eye line.
Okay, so to not get too bogged down in the technical stuff, because this is like a 3.5 hour presentation and everybody needs to go watch it. But here it is, basically the gist of it, the essence of it. So as you can see down here, actually let me, I can just mute it and then rewind it to the start and play. Well, no, that won't work either. So let's get out of here. Yeah, that'll be fine. Anyways, so as you can see down here, this is your observer over here on the left. Let's go full screen. This is the observer. So imagine like your eyeball, and let's say you're standing, you know, on the shoreline, looking out over the ocean, and you are basically watching the sunset. The angles beneath your eye line to an object, let's say there's like a giant beach ball, a big beach ball floating in the water just a few feet away. As you can see here, the angles to this beach ball will shrink much quicker than the angles to let's call it the sun, a giant ball in the sky or disk, high above your head. In fact, you can see the angles, I mean, it's almost imperceptible. And it's really just a matter of angular size and the distance to things. So again, as you can see here, the angles to these discs here in the diagram are much steeper, much more narrow, and the angular size of things will disappear much quicker, or more specifically, will become smaller much quicker and more noticeable in your vision, as compared to something really far away and really high up in the sky, like the sun. And even on the flat earth model, I think a common answer for the distance of the sun is like 3,000 miles or something. That's one, estimation. Could be wrong, could be right, who knows. But this is literally a solid explanation for why the sun can appear to descend due to perspective and angular size while still remaining a certain size and not losing much in that size. And up here you can see this is what it would look like from the perspective of you staring out into the ocean. You're down here, and this is the water, the ocean beneath your feet, and you've got that sun high up in the sky, and it barely appears to change in angular size. Again, here's another variation of it. So it's very, very simple stuff, but you have to stop presupposing you live on a spinning space ball for just 1 second. I know we've been doing it for about 2,500 years, but just for a moment, consider that maybe you don't live on the underside of a spinning ball. Just for a second, consider that. Just for half a second. So let's watch a little bit more, because it does get pretty interesting.
So the angles remain somewhat large. It maintains its relative size for the most part. And at the end, it will eventually set into the horizon. So, as you probably have guessed, the sun is a practical example of this. The sun and moon set because they travel a short distance in a straight line along the very high upper boundary. If we extend our ceiling to a tremendous height, you see that the rate of differential angular compression between the floor and the apparent ceiling is large, and the descent rate steepens dramatically. So the object descends to the vanishing line rather quickly while maintaining a relatively constant resolution angle as it travels. It therefore does not experience an appreciable change in size. Once it hits the lower horizon, it sets. Again, this occurs without the object having to travel very far.
All right, so there it is. Again, I'm going to put a link to this video right now up in the chat. Keep an eye out for the video link. I'm going to put it right now into the chat. Let me make sure this is still the right one. Didn't change the fucking thing. Watch and subscribe. Everybody click that link. Everybody go subscribe to the channel. You got to do it. Let's double check the health of the stream here. Okay, looking good. And that's it. That's it. Okay, so yeah, so there you go. I mean, people will be like, oh, this is an ad hoc theory. You flat earthers are just stretching with your crazy attempts to explain reality. This is just, you guys are just desperate. Oh yeah, angular size and perspective. This is crazy. Well, like I said earlier, crazy would be, let me just expand myself here for a second. Crazy would be all the things we have to believe about the globe model, that we live on a spinning space ball going at 1,000 miles an hour, going around the sun at way faster than that, stuck to the bottom of a spinning ball thanks to gravity keeping us in place. Axial tilt, so now we're also tilted a little bit. Magnetic poles versus geographic poles. The sun and the moon appearing to be the exact same size, despite the sun being 400 times larger and 400 times further away, as they claim to us. But it all came out of a big bang for no reason, so it's all just coincidence that the sun and moon appear to be the same size? Okay, a joke. So there's so many issues with the spinning space ball model that we all have to accept, and I say that this is an ad hoc theory. It's an ancient 2,500-year-old presupposition, and people have been looking for evidence to prove it ever since. And they're constantly tweaking the model to make sure it matches our observations. Recently, a European Space Agency came out and said, oh, it turns out that the Earth's atmosphere, we thought for the last 50, 60 years, we thought the Earth's atmosphere ended at 124,000 miles. Oh shit, we were completely wrong. We even went to the moon under those pretenses. Good thing it didn't impact the moon mission. It turns out the Earth's atmosphere extends 400,000 miles, and that the moon is, to quote one article, right in the middle of the Earth's atmosphere, because the moon is, it's 238,000 miles away. So, so much ad hoc nonsense. Let's keep listening because Alex Jones, he goes on a little bit more. Let's see what else he has to say here. Let's see if he has anything else to
Through
say.
dirt, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad told me all that.
That's fucking amazing. Yeah.
So that's why moons are red. They're red when they rise. They're white when they go to the top.
It's all the shit we're looking at it through. Yeah, we've got a weird situation, huh? A big-ass 1/4 size planet just floating. Just floating above us. We stare at it. Well, it's a full moon tonight. That is fucking weird. There's a planet that's right there.
I fell asleep at like 10 o'clock last night and missed your call. And I woke up at like 3:30 and I had to get up and I looked out and it looked...
Mart Sawup L says, it's Geocorna. Maybe if you read a bit instead of just getting all hot and flustered when you hear buzzwords. It's part of the Earth's atmosphere. That's the point, stupid. They originally thought it ended at 124,000 miles, with the moon at 238,000 miles. Meaning the moon was, floating in the vacuum of space outside of Earth. Now, the Earth's atmosphere extends to 394,000 miles, and the moon is within the Earth's atmosphere. It's very simple, it's very basic, and I know it butt hurts you guys. You guys get really butthurt about it, but newsflash. Guess what? Your consensus was wrong. Sucks, doesn't it?
fake.
It was
so
fake
beautiful.
sometimes,
It was a
yeah.
half moon, and I was looking out the hotel like a 500 yards from here, and I'm looking at how beautiful that is. It's just like, hey, it's okay to say it's made out of cheese. It probably isn't.
Did you ever see that movie Dark City?
It's okay to say it's made out of cheese. I really wonder sometimes why that stereotype of being made out of cheese even exists in the first place. It's funny. Anyways, that's basically it for today, guys. I don't want to go too long because basically, I'm not going to sit here and have my energy stolen basically by YouTube's shadow banning. They did actually come out a few weeks ago and admit that they are going to reduce recommendations for flat Earth videos. So, you just, after a point, you're like, no, you're not going to steal my energy. So, unfortunately, I do got to cut it short for today, guys. But that's the essence of it. And really, Alex Jones was basically in a troll mood the whole time. He was just trolling. He was just, he's sort of not really taking flat Earth very seriously. And that's what everybody does when they first hear about this. So, you can't really blame anybody because we've all been conditioned. So that's basically it for today, guys. I would go longer, but obviously, again, with shadow banning, YouTube basically saying you work hard and you build an audience, but we're not going to let you reach your audience. It's like, well, why am I going to actually let them basically steal my energy and my work when it's just some evil corporation run by a feminist who, just its politics is getting in the middle of what was supposed to be YouTube, about you. But it's not about that anymore. Just go to the trending tab right now. Go look at what videos they're rigging and curating, and you tell me if it's about you, because it's not. So again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for everybody who made it through the shadow banning censorship algorithm. And that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you guys for the super chats. And I will talk to you all later. Later.